We made it.
You feel different?
All the problems are gone.
Yep.
All the world's problems are gone.
Mm-hmm.
2021.
I was going to say 2020 is in the past.
2021. All your problems are gone. That's
Nice.
the slogan. I don't know if there was ever a New Year's that, I just sort of passively experienced. Like, I know we had our thing for New Year's Eve, but I didn't, given how bad 2020 was, you'd think I would care more about 2021. I don't really care.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a better year than 2020, but I also think there's, we're sensible enough to keep our expectations low. I think that's something that 2020 taught us. I don't want to put the cart before the horse and get too excited and, we were just joking about it, like think that, we turned the calendar, so now everything's going to magically be better. I think we know it's still going to be a while.
I never was amped for a new year. The last time I can remember being, I don't know, excited or anticipating a new year had to have been 2000.
That's what I was going to say.
Because we all thought everything was going to break.
Yeah.
And this is before I was heavily reliant on the internet.
Right.
And I just, my computer's going to break.
Right.
And ever since then, it's just been
another year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And 2021 was no different. And you would think, because of everything that happened, you'd be I would be, or people would be, a little more excited. I don't, social media. Welcome to While She's Napping. I'm Adam.
And I'm Cindy.
It's social media posts. No one cared. No one cared. No one's talking about how excited they are for 2021.
I think people are, but like I said, I think there's that sort of lens of apprehension of not wanting to get too excited and then be disappointed if it takes a long time.
Do you think people just think things are just going to normalize with 2021, at least midway?
Yeah, that's what I think. We still have a few pretty dark months immediately ahead of us. And I think that's what's kind of holding back the excitement. I think there's also, in terms of COVID, for me, I'm anticipating a post-holiday surge pretty much everywhere. So starting, in the next 7 to 10 days, I feel like things are going to get really bad. And it's going to be rough for a couple more months before it starts to really turn the corner.
Well, speaking of turning the corner, segue points. We're doing pretty well with this project that we started as a result of the pandemic, I guess, or not really, but
we started this in March.
Well, it wasn't really a result of the pandemic. It was just something we thought we should do, and it happened to be
right. We
during
had been
a pandemic.
Yeah, we had been thinking about it and talking about it for a little while, and then when the stay-at-home orders and everything went into place, we're like, well, now's the time. Yeah.
That being said, each quarter, so every 3 months, we've been seeing approximately 1,000 downloads happen, and this quarter, from September to December, was no different. So we are celebrating our 3,000th download, although we are far beyond that presently. Mm-hmm. But it's something that we failed to discuss last week. So we thank you for the support. We thank you for continuing to listen, and we thank you for interacting with us. This has been a growing project, and I'm happy with where we're at. I mean, we're talking to people all over the world, or people all over the world are listening to us.
Mm-hmm. That's been a great way for us to stay connected and branch out and connect with even more people, given that we're stuck at home.
Yeah. And meeting new people. Shout out to Chris and Sarah. We spent New Year's Eve with you guys, MySpace with you. What is the new Sailing Victoria?
Sailing Victoria. Mm-hmm.
They didn't go
new adventure
with salty semen
with you.
I thought that was a home run.
I said that last week or a few days ago, I guess. I was creating our new Bachelorette, now it's the Bachelor Fantasy League, which is just the four of us. Us and Chris and Sarah.
I won the Bachelorette.
Yeah. We'll do a whole episode.
Yeah, I'm the champion.
I know. You got lucky. Anyway, I'm paying attention this time, so watch out. Anyway, I was thinking that should
Well,
have
hold
been
on.
our...
Did you know I was the champion of that?
Oh,
That I won it?
really?
Yeah, I won the whole
No
thing.
way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Never watched
Good
an
to
episode
know.
of The Bachelorette, and I
Yeah.
won.
I know. I was the only one in the league who had ever really watched any of the Bachelor franchise.
The champion.
and yeah, you won.
I
I'm
won.
embarrassed. But I'm out for blood this season.
The
so
champion.
yeah. Anyway, Salty Seaman with You should have been our league name for the
Yes.
fantasy league. Maybe next time, or maybe I could probably change it.
Whatever. It's fine. But shout out to Chris and Sarah. Glad to see that you're sailing Victoria.
Yeah.
And you guys technically are seamen.
It's official.
Like, by definition,
Yeah.
you are seamen. Anyways, that being said, this has been a great project for us. We wish that you guys, we hope rather, that everybody is enjoying what you're hearing, and we intend to give more content leading forward. There's no one in sight, at least in my book, until you tell me to leave. Then I'll do it from my phone, I guess. But yeah, I've been having a whole lot of fun with this. It's been sort of a, I don't know. I don't want to say a break from reality, but it's a good way to just, I don't know, word salad.
Yeah.
After a week
Mm-hmm.
of dealing with the world.
Yep.
You know. Anyways, so if you like what you're hearing, if you like what you've heard, if you enjoy our show, we appreciate the support. We appreciate the downloads. Please subscribe to the show, whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts fixed from. Please subscribe to the show, and especially if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us 5 stars and a quick review. As I mentioned before, that does absolutely nothing for your ranking status on the Apple Podcast charts. It's just a nice vanity project. It makes us look cool. We're not cool, so just give us 5 stars, overcompensate for our lack of coolness, and we'll be good to go. Also, if you'd like to interact with us on Facebook or wherever you, I don't know, get your social media fix from, you can.
We're on Facebook at facebook.com/whileshe'snapping, on Instagram at whileshe'snapping, on Twitter at she'snappingpod, or you can email us at whileshe'snapping@gmail.com.
Yeah, speaking of Chris and Sarah, it was cool to see how people celebrate the new year on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like the East Coast is king when it comes to New Year's.
Well, because they dropped the ball in New York, so they're on Eastern Standard Time.
But at the same time, with the West Coast, it's like, we don't have to stay up till midnight.
Right. They got to celebrate it with us, and then they could just go to bed.
Or we can experience it twice.
Yeah, so I saw a really genius parenting hack from one of the accounts I
you
follow on
YouTube
Instagram.
the old one.
Or that, or you could do it with, I forget which location they chose, but it was another time zone in the world that was like streaming their ball drop equivalent of, celebrating midnight their time.
Yeah.
It was like Dubai or something, their big New Year's celebration. And so it was like 6:30 p.m. their time here in the U.S. And they tricked their kids into thinking that they stayed up till midnight for New Year's.
Right.
And then they got to send them to bed at normal time.
I'm surprised we last until midnight. And then I
it was
remember
like 12:05 and we're like,
I'm done.
We made it.
12:01. I said, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yep. We did it.
It was cool because that was the first time I actually thought of, oh yeah, the time zones are weird.
Yeah.
And we get to see how people celebrate with us here in a room with you. Anyways, so what's on the docket today? We're going to look forward to 2021, this year that is an enigma to us.
Yeah. Last week we did a reflection on 2020, which was pretty doom and gloom, I think, but it is what it is. So this time, we're going to talk about the year coming up and some of our expectations and some of the resolutions that we received from our listeners. And we're going to, I think, wrap up with some sort of
bold predictions.
Yeah, hot takes or bold predictions that we have for the year.
Okay. So how do you want to begin? You want to talk about resolutions?
Well, why don't we, really quick, I want to wrap up the 2020 reflection because I took a shot in the dark and just posted that after we recorded our episode to see if anyone had anything else that they would remember about 2020 or any significant events that, we might have missed, or if they wanted to kind of vote for one of the things that we talked about as being the thing that they would most remember. And I realized that I kind of thought of it as I was posting. I'm like, this is kind of a silly question. Like, everyone's going to remember 2020 for COVID.
Right.
Like, it was the year of a global pandemic, like nothing we've ever seen before, and nothing, hopefully, that we'll ever see in our lifetime again. So, yeah, no surprise. That was the answer we received for that question. So it seems like I think we covered a pretty broad range of a lot happened in 2020. I think we covered a lot of it last week. So yeah, thanks to those who answered that sort of obvious question. Just kind of confirmed what we were going with anyway.
Basically.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, back in 1918, they experienced the flu then, the H1N1 outbreak. What happened in 1919? You don't hear anything about it. What do they do? I know it didn't last nearly as long as what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Was there a vaccine? I mean, that was a long time ago.
No, I think they went all herd.
Wow.
I think. I could be wrong.
Well, that's
about
why
that.
So many people died.
Yeah.
In that pandemic, yeah. That's
Makes
the
you
only
wonder.
Plausible thing. I'm going to look that up.
Everybody says when it comes to what we're experiencing with COVID, they're saying nothing's ever going to be the same. Everything's going to be different. But I mean, so one of two things has to be true. In 1917, things were radically different than post 1918 flu, or things went back to normal. And if things went back to normal with the 1918 flu, why can't things go back to normal after this?
I think it depends on what you mean by normal. I think now in our modern era, there are things that we did to adapt that weren't available to people in 1918. Like, I think when people say, things are always going to be different, I think it's things like we're more comfortable with technology and that kind of stuff.
I don't think that's what they're insinuating.
Then what do they mean?
That will never be...
be like comfortable in a crowded room with people and stuff. I mean, I think that's just going to take time. I mean, it's not like our kid who's 2.5 right now is never going to go to a concert. Like, when she's in her late teens, early 20s, she's going to be going to concerts.
So things are going to be back to normal.
Yeah, I think the things that might remain, especially in the short term, is like, I think people might be hesitant or more likely, if there's an option to go to an event that's going to be really crowded indoors or whatever, they might opt out and do something different. Or just, I think it's just going to, you kind of have to we have to teach ourselves over again how to interact.
I don't think
normally.
So. I think they're going to be like fuck fests everywhere.
Maybe, but yeah.
No, people are going to go as soon as the CDC gives the thumbs up. I think it'll probably happen sooner. But
I don't think it's just going to be like one day the CDC is going to announce and say, okay, life is normal.
No. I think eventually there will be a day where the CDC says everyone, or enough people rather, are vaccinated that it's safe to resume large public gatherings, large public outings such as concerts, full capacity.
I think that's just going to happen gradually, location by location.
Yeah, but once the final location happens,
I guess. I just feel like it's going to be messier than that because the whole thing has been so messy.
I don't know. See, it makes me wonder, though, if things were radically different in 1917 and from 1919, rather, up until this point, that was the new normal, which was just normal for us. Because that's, I can't, that seems weird to me. Yeah. It just seems more likely that these things are overblown and people are overdramatic when they say, oh, things will never be the same. No, they will.
They will. I think it's going to be, different people are going to approach it differently. I think I think it's more likely that you're going to be very comfortable within your own sort of circle and, seeing your extended family and your friends and everything, especially because you can keep track of people who've been vaccinated within that circle, and you can feel comfortable, like, well, especially if for whatever reason you can't get the vaccine or your kids can't get the vaccine, that the people you're with have all been vaccinated, if that's the case, so you can feel comfortable being with them. But in the case of going to a concert or some large gathering, you have no idea.
It's the risk
So
you
until
take.
you're, but
Well, that's
like,
not true. Ticketmaster is requiring
like
people
a scan.
Yeah.
But I think if you're I feel like that's only going to be an issue for people who can't be vaccinated or aren't like in line yet for the vaccination. But
Yeah.
so until, at least that's how I'm approaching it, as someone who's will be first in line whenever I'm eligible to get the vaccine, I'll feel more comfortable going out into public because I'll feel protected. But until then, I'll still probably only want to be around other people who have been vaccinated.
Well, we'll see. I don't want to bury the lead on our 2021 predictions.
Yeah.
So you want to talk resolutions now? Is that the only thing you wanted to bring up when it came to reflecting on 2020?
Well, the only other thing was, so I'm totally ripping this from another podcast I listened to. The NPR Politics podcast did a little segment on, everyone's so, anxious to bid farewell to 2020 and talking about how shitty it was. And they had a segment talking about what are the things from 2020 that you actually want to hold on to? What are the things that you want to see come with us into 2021 and, and so on. So I'm
from
asking
2020?
you. Yeah.
What are the things that I want to maintain?
Yeah, as shitty of a year as it was, what are the things that you want to keep from 2020?
Oof.
Like good things that came out of it.
Personally or?
Yeah, or otherwise.
Well, this show.
Well, yeah. We already talked about that.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, well, he's young, so you'll have
king.
him for a while. Yeah.
King Josh.
What was the final score today?
56 to 20 something. We're recording this Sunday evening.
Yeah.
Bills are the 2 seed. I don't know. Again, I've referenced this before. By and large, my life hasn't really changed. So it's just another year that has, for me personally, has just, maintained. But I guess publicly and socially more of an awareness towards, minority groups and people of color and racial inequality. I think that really tapped into something important and something that we're, maybe not as actively as we ought to, but we are becoming more and more aware of the inequalities. I think that was really cool to see, and well, you know what I mean. The awareness of it was a positive. And the steps, or rather, the attempted steps, to begin course correcting. Obviously, it's not just a brush that you can say, all right, we're good, much like COVID. But yeah, I think that was outside of the pandemic. We've referenced this last show, the biggest thing to happen in 2020.
Right. I agree. I think the pandemic, we did talk about this last week, how it gave space for people to get more engaged and more learning about that kind of stuff, and same thing with politics. And so yeah, I hope to see that continue. And I think I mentioned earlier about technology and stuff, but seriously, I mean, I work in an office where I normally interact with people who are located in different geographic areas, and people before COVID were not comfortable with video chatting.
Right.
It was like awkward and weird, and you never knew if the other person was going to turn their video on or just call you through the audio. And like that has been totally normalized, I think. And I think for me, since I do have a lot of colleagues that even in a non-pandemic situation, I talk with often on the phone, I think we will probably continue to talk through video. And I think it encourages and, helps with the connection and work relationship. So I hope that continues.
Should have invested in Zoom.
Yeah. Well, and a lot more people, I really hope, I mean, it still happens all the time, but I think people are getting much better at it in terms of like not muting yourself on Zoom and having just all those technical difficulties. Like people have gone through the experience of planning huge conferences and huge virtual events with all these new creative things like using breakout groups and all this stuff that we never really took advantage of before because we didn't need to. So I'm kind of glad that we all had to take that crash course.
Yeah.
I think it'll make things a lot easier for me, at least in my professional life.
Yeah, I don't know that there's really anything else that I want to. It's
I
not
think
that.
we're going to value our time with our friends and family a lot more.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that tie into this when it comes to bold predictions. When it comes to 2021, that I feel that if I reference those now, I'll bury the lead for later. So
All right, we'll
let's
save
just
it.
move forward.
Okay.
So what's next on the docket? Resolutions.
Yeah.
Why don't they last? It's always all right. I can't say always. It's most of the time health related.
Right. New year, new you.
Yeah,
That's the cliche.
it's always the same me,
Mhm.
and I don't ever really remember this. All right, so the one New Year's resolution I had that I followed through with was back in 2016, saying I'm going to start a podcast,
Right.
and didn't have any expectations, didn't have any sort of ambition to make it anything. I just said I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to talk about sports and talk about Toronto sports and just see where it goes. And that, to me, is one of the coolest resolutions I had for reasons we've touched on before in our On Letting Go episode. But otherwise, it's always health related. It's always I'm going to lose weight. It's never been I'm speaking personally. It's never been I'm going to lose X amount of pounds, or I'm going to put on X amount of muscle, or I'm going to be able to do, I don't know, X amount of pull-ups. There was never a number. It was always I have to get my shit together. I can feel the pants tightening up. I'm going to have one last banger on New Year's Eve. Unless that falls like on a Thursday, then I'll continue that binge up until the Sunday, and then the
Start Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the dads or all the moms or anybody that said, all right, January 1st, going to start losing weight.
4th.
And then January 2nd saying, I'll wait till Monday.
Yeah. I was totally guilty of that this weekend. I think there's a lot of psychology behind the why don't resolutions work question. I think there are plenty of people who have studied that and have a good understanding of why that's the case. I think that part of
is it because it's too monumental?
I think people, overreach with their goals. And I think there's also something to be said for when goals aren't, like you said, you've never made it like, I'm going to do X number of pull-ups or like have like a tangible. I think there's a whole thing about SMART goals. Like, I don't know if you've had to do that. SMART goals.
What's that?
It's an acronym for.
So it's not like iPhone?
It's like a goal that has a timetable attached to it. It's measurable. It's achievable. It has these 5 categories of things that make it a good attainable goal. And so I just think a lot of people don't like really think through the goals. Like you said, they're just like, I just got to get my shit together. And so, yeah, that's a very like type A thing. I think having SMART goals and just part of like strategic planning and thinking and visioning and stuff. But, I think at least for me, I've always had those similar types of goals of starting a new workout program or whatever. And, but when we talked about like diet culture and all that on another episode, but, I think for this year, I think it's really acceptable to be easy on ourselves because like I said,
because of 2020,
I think, all of 2020, I was really pretty easy on myself.
That's what I'm saying. I tend to disagree with you because we've had, for all intents and purposes, we'll say 9 months, right? Because the first quarter of 2020 was pretty normal.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll say we had 9 months of having this sort of, don't worry about it, it's a pandemic. And I agree with that.
But it still is. Just because we turn the calendar doesn't change that.
But there is some sort of mental, I don't know, switch that you have to flip. And starting now before things start to normalize might benefit you. And I'm not saying live normally. I'm just saying get yourself ready. Right.
And so that's what I was going to say is that I'm not focusing. Normally, I feel like a SMART goal would be like to set a number or set a tangible, like actual figure of something that you want to achieve and with a timeline. And I feel like doing it more of just like, I want to improve my self-care with X, Y, and Z, whatever that is. Like, or I just don't think it should be tied to, I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to lose the weight I put on in 2020 or.
It doesn't have to be health related. Right.
But you know that that's the default. I think I just feel like there's probably a lot of people who feel guilty about the choices that they made in 2020 and that they did probably take this easier approach and kind of like not beating themselves up about if they put on weight or haven't been on their game with working out or whatever. And I think...
Can't relate.
I know. But not everyone is you, Mr. 4 a.m. working out every day. I'm just saying, like, 2020 took its toll, and part of being anxious and having depression or feeling this isolation and these other mental health issues are, being really tired, having insomnia, things like that. So there are a lot of people who can't just turn that off and get up at 4 a.m.
No. I get that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, we can say we've had our 9 months to sort of be in our own element for good reason. And if you want to extend it to March and say the full year, that's fine. I'm sympathetic to all that. But I do think there is a level of personal responsibility where we have to say to ourselves, okay, at this point, maybe, stress eating, maybe sitting in front of, assuming you don't have children, sitting in front of the television all day because you're out of work, just sort of wasting the day away, isn't beneficial for my mental health. Maybe I need to take steps to start improving that, whether it doesn't have to be exercise, whether it's meditation or reading a book, something to better your circumstances, something to boost those endorphins in you to lead towards feeling more positive. And eventually when things quote unquote normalize, you're ready to embrace it and you feel good about the person you are walking out into the quote unquote normal world.
I agree. I guess I'm just saying, I feel like there's more of a focus this year, rightfully so, on mental health and self-care than on lose the weight you put on over the holidays.
Maybe that's part of it. Maybe I should sign up for, not me personally, but someone saying, look, I've been struggling with this. Maybe it's time I sign up for a Zoom therapy session.
That's my resolution. I'm going to go back to therapy.
But that's what I'm saying. Maybe that is something that it doesn't have to be losing weight related.
Right. That's my point, is that most years that's what it is. That's all you see is New Year's resolutions about, losing weight, exercising, joining a gym, whatever. Like I'm glad to see, I'm still seeing that kind of stuff online and on social media of people advertising the quick fixes for losing your holiday weight and all that. But this year, it's not as prevalent as it usually is, and I'm glad to see that, because that shouldn't be the priority. Gyms are closed.
Well, they're not closed; they're just limited.
Or limited, right? But I really think that the new year doesn't mean that you're going to be able to flip a switch and get your mental health in check and get your habits back on track and all that. But I'm saying, but I agree with you that it's like there's this mentality of it being a fresh start to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself.
Right.
And I feel like we have, at least for us, it's become kind of a routine thing that after Christmas, when we take down all our decorations and we take down the tree, we go on this cleaning spree and organizing spree.
Great.
And we have to, because, our daughter gets new toys, we have new things, like new clothes, we have to rotate things out, and we're putting away the Christmas decorations and realize what a fucking mess our storage closets are and stuff. And we just go on a binge, and one thing leads to another, and we're cleaning and organizing the whole house. And it really does make a difference. I think it makes you just feel like I have a fresh start.
Yeah, we hung up a wine rack today.
Yeah.
And I found myself actively going into the kitchen so I can look at it. That's it.
Just to stare at it.
Just to look at it.
Yeah, and you took a picture and sent it to a bunch of people.
I sent it to my mom.
Yeah, and one of your friends.
Yeah.
And my dad.
Yeah.
My dad built us those shelves for Christmas. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is something to that effect. And, when it comes to resolutions, again, it doesn't have to be weight loss related. And I know that's the go-to. And I do think that the reason why it fails is because the expectations, or for lack of a better way to put it, the goals are unreasonable.
Right.
And that's why I don't put a number on things. For me personally, and again, this is not me bragging or anything, but I feel good about my physical health, that I no longer need to have that resolution again, year after year. And I think that's what's frustrating. It's the resolution isn't a year-long process. I don't think people look at weight loss resolutions and say, okay, this is going to be from January to December, I'm going to establish healthier eating habits. I think what the majority of people do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to start January until I feel good about myself, and then I'll go,
or I lose a certain amount of weight or whatever. Yeah.
and then I'll,
Right.
then I'm free to do it again.
I think things
I'm free
that
to
are-
eat that way
Right.
again.
You reach your goal and then you reward yourself by going back to
Yeah.
the old habits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think for me, in terms of my health and, physical health and exercise, I'm not going to focus on my weight. I think I want to focus on flexibility and stretching, and because it makes me feel better, like in terms
Sure.
of my joints and like not being sore, especially since I can't do things like go to the chiropractor or go get a massage or whatever during COVID. Yeah, I've been hurting. And I last year, my resolution, I did keep my resolution, was to go back to dance.
Yeah.
And I did
yeah.
that. And it was awesome. But again, it wasn't because I wanted to lose 20 pounds. It was
just wanted
because
to
I
do it.
wanted to do it because I love it. And if I got in better shape in the process, then great. But that wasn't the goal.
Yeah.
So I want to take the same approach this year.
And I don't want to get it twisted here. I'm not saying, all right, you've soaked in your sorrows for 9 months. Now it's time to fucking nut up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we've had 9 months of grueling shit as a planet to deal with when it comes to this pandemic. We usually have New Year's resolutions. I know things are still relatively, if not just as limited as they have been. Depending on where you live, you might have these things available to you in more of a normal way than we do here in Rhode Island, right? So maybe if you're seeking some sort of therapy sessions, maybe where you live, you can do in-person therapy sessions. I'm not sure that that's available in Rhode Island. Maybe it is. But that's at your own discretion. So if you feel more comfortable with a Zoom therapy session, more power to you. My point is that we've had 9 months to sort of sulk in this or rather experience this, absorb it. And I think as just a kickstart, just a little kick in the bum, we can say, okay, January 1st, I'm going to try to do something to just better my situation. I'm going to take the ball myself because I can't rely on the outside world as much as I used to be able to pre-pandemic in order to just have these things available for me. I think there's that initial first step to say, I'm going to take this and run with it on my own volition and use although limited, the resources I have available to me in order to better my circumstances, whether that's mental, physical, whatever, it doesn't matter. I think starting that process in the beginning, in January 1st or the 4th or whatever, and then once things normalize and you're able to be outside, be around people, you're just mentally, at least, whether, again, weight loss or not, mentally better prepared to be in those situations, right? Because if it's a mental health thing, and you're struggling, yes, you want to have that social interactions. I imagine that is what is triggering these I don't know.
Well, it can be, a component of, right, feeling depressed and isolated and anxious,
I don't know necessarily that the solution to that is when you're able to have large gatherings again, just to jump in full force.
Well, that's what I was
there might
saying
be some
before.
sort of culture shock to that.
I think everybody's going to have to do that on their own,
right,
their own
and
timeline.
maybe you need this opportunity for the next X amount of months to prepare yourself for that,
Sure.
right? Or if it's strictly vanity and strictly you put on a lot of weight and you want to lose it, maybe in your head you're like, well, I know I put on a lot of this weight. I know I don't really fit into my clothes. I know I'm going to have to go back to the office at some point. I really need to fit back.
I can't wear my
clothes.
sweatpants.
Yeah.
Well,
just
you
something.
can buy new clothes.
And again, that's
If you
not
can buy new
that's
clothes.
not measuring your worth. It's just getting back in a situation where you feel good about yourself. And I'm not saying your weight makes you better or worse or enables you to feel better about yourself necessarily, but there is a component of accomplishment that you achieve when you hit a goal, and you'll just be better prepared.
I just think that the top priority should just be taking care of ourselves and our mental health. And
I'm just saying, if you're going back to an office and you don't have clothes that fit you, you kind of got to do something about it.
Yeah, you can buy new clothes.
But then you have to go to somewhere and try them on.
You got to order
it, and
then
who tried those on before you.
I know. Or you have to order it online, try it on, send it back. You got to go to the post office. I know. It's a complicated process.
Yeah.
I think more offices are going to normalize wearing leggings. I don't know. I hope so. Maybe the office business casual will lean more on the casual side post-pandemic.
Yeah. I'm only bringing up weight loss because that's the popular thing.
It is. I know you can't avoid it around New Year's, but that's my point is I hope that people, I mean, every year, I hope that people don't get sucked into that, like, because it's usually not successful and it's not a healthy way to go about it. You know, and I think this year more than ever, we should not be putting that kind of pressure on ourselves.
I don't know. There's something about walking out of a pandemic and I don't know, just being like, that guy had his shit together, or that girl had her shit together when it comes to physically, but you don't know what's going on emotionally
That's
up
what
there.
I'm saying.
And you'd be like, I don't have my shit together. This is just something that maybe I use to cope with the situation.
When things are like completely out of control, I can understand how if that's your thing, like you get into this routine if you started working out at home,
right?
Especially if you had more time on your hands than normal, and that ended up being your way of, you know, taking control of things when you couldn't control anything else. I mean, that's totally reasonable too.
All right, let's take a pause here. When we come back after the break, I do want to talk about some bold predictions for 2021.
Can't wait.
Okay, so you touched on Zoom meetings and stuff. When it comes to bold predictions, I don't know how much of these are necessarily bold, but I do think 2020 offered a glimpse as to how people are going to operate both professionally and personally, or, you know, casually heading into this new year. So the first thing that I want to address when it comes, offer as a bold prediction is I think, you know, virtual meetings, Zoom meetings instead of in-office giant meetings or whatever are going to become the norm. And I think tied to that, I do think people working from home, a lot more companies are going to embrace that. It's cheaper. It's more convenient for the parent or for the individual working from home. It's almost, if not entirely impossible to be late for work if you're working from home. And I think now that companies have seen, from my understanding and my research, people are getting more work or just as much work done from working from home than they would at the office. Why would you want to pay for the headspace or for the rent for a giant building when you don't need that much space to utilize, whether it's offices or even the electricity you're using, the water, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to become normalized now.
I think it will be in some instances. I think in some cases it will be more permissible, but not necessarily like the norm that everyone does on a regular basis, but maybe on a situational basis.
I think it will.
I don't know. I think it depends. I think in some cases, yes, but on the other hand, I can also see the value in being in person for the sake of, having like good interpersonal relationships with your colleagues and having that social aspect, I think is important for a team in a professional environment. And again, I'm talking from the perspective of someone who works with, I've always interacted virtually with a lot of colleagues who aren't located in the same office as I am. And it's been interesting, though, having all of us be virtual and none of us interacting in person, I think in some ways has helped us connect more because we're all on the same page.
Right.
Versus I think it can end up being sort of cliquey if you have certain groups of people who are in person together, because you miss those kind of like the cliche water cooler conversations. You don't pass someone in the hallway or just check in to say hi. Like there are people that
shoot a text.
It's different though. Like there are people who I worked with who worked in the same building as me but aren't on my regular work team, who I had good relationships with and friendships, and I haven't talked to those people in 6-8 months or whatever, because I don't directly work with them on projects. We just we work in the same building and we help each other out with things when we need it. But I feel like there's a lost opportunity there, because even though we don't work on the same project team, we would still bounce ideas off of each other or be able to share resources or whatever if we just stop and chat in the lunchroom. Like that is completely gone from my work culture.
Yeah.
And
but that's not necessary to be productive at work. It's just
right,
an added benefit.
Sure, but I think
individual.
over time, but there are certain things that I'm, like I said, I think my interactions with my I know it's weird that I have people in person in my building who aren't on my team, but then I have people who are on my team who don't work in my building, who I do have to work with on a regular basis. And those relationships, I think, have thrived even more with everybody being virtual. But I'm missing the relationships of the people who don't work on my direct team.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying when it comes to the employer, they don't give a fuck about those. At the end of the day, they don't care about those water cooler conversations.
No.
But they care about production.
Right, but those water cooler conversations have positively impacted my work on my team in the past. Like,
I wonder how measurable that is.
It's really hard to measure. That's what I'm saying. And I also think it's part of mental health. I think it is pretty isolating to work alone all the time, and it completely depends on your profession too, and,
that's what I'm
your
saying.
personality.
I think for you that makes sense, but I think by and large the majority of companies in the world don't have that sort of component.
Maybe
I think it's I believe rather I have nothing to base this on, that a lot of the work is much more individualistic, and if they can accomplish the same sort of goals for the company from the comfort of their own home, I think companies are going to embrace that, because now they're not paying for that building. They're not paying for
yeah, I know monetarily it would save money, but I don't know. I'm more of a social person. Like I enjoy getting to know my coworkers.
I got you.
I know not everyone is like that, but I think that there's something to be said for teams who are generally more productive. I think generally have a healthy working relationship with their colleagues and have these interpersonal relationships and social component to what they do, and I think it does make you more productive, but that's just me.
All right, ready for me to squash your dreams?
Oh god.
I don't think things are going to quote unquote normalize, meaning not being able to worry about masks, not having to worry about masks, social distance, constantly sanitizing our hands until November.
I don't think that's that much of a hot take. I think people
aren't assuming summer.
Yeah, but I think that's because summer is generally, like, I wish we had socialized more in the summer. I think we could have done more safe activities outside. But I think it's all going to depend on the rate at which people get vaccinated and who you're interacting with.
That's why, because I don't think people are going to get vaccinated.
And if you're in a group of people and you know that you've all had your vaccine, then you can interact normally. I don't think you have to worry about it.
Right.
But
you got the Bill Gates 5G chip in.
Yeah, we're good.
but then you're being tracked. You don't want that.
Yeah, because there's nothing like that we do right now on
because they're going to specifically look at you,
right,
and see what you're doing.
Yeah, because none of the other technology that we have right now does that.
Yeah, but this is the Bill Gates 5G chip.
Oh.
This is different.
Okay.
You're the internet.
Yeah. Well, we're the data already. But anyway, I don't...
But you're the tower.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's been pretty consistent with the advice we've been given is that, even once the vaccine starts rolling out in pretty high numbers, we have to continue wearing, I think it's going to be mask wearing and sanitizing and all that in public, because you don't know the person you're walking down the grocery aisle with,
Right.
if they have had their vaccine or not, and you don't know who in the grocery store is unable to get vaccinated or whatever and who's vulnerable.
No one's going to fucking do that. I promise you, the majority of people, the lay people, just the normal everyday citizens, once they get their vaccines, they're done.
Well, but there's still this question about whether or not you can still transmit the virus.
They're not going to give a fuck.
But if the regulations are still in place, then I mean, you can't go to the grocery store if you don't have your mask on.
Some grocery stores.
Yeah, I know that. Whatever. But I'm just saying, I think it's more about. It's going to be about being in public until we feel like we've reached herd immunity, like any of the other diseases that we get vaccinated for. And there's a high confidence that the vast majority of the population is going to be protected. Only then I think we'll be able to, get rid of the masks and stuff when we're in public. But I think the most important thing I don't give a shit if I have to wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. What am I losing? Like, who cares?
I honestly think that should be normalized.
That's
when people have
creepy.
like the flu,
Sure,
or
but
people have a cold or something.
Why not? Yeah.
I did not. This is the first year I did not get sick all 12 months. I was not sick for anything. Not a thing. You were. You had a cold.
Early in 2020.
Yeah.
Maybe I had COVID.
Maybe.
Our daughter was sick too.
But I didn't have anything. It's the first 12-month period.
Yeah, I don't know how you dodged that. They said that she had RSV.
Because I washed the fuck out of my hands all the time.
No, I'm saying this was in like January.
Oh, I don't know.
December, January. We both had a really bad respiratory cold.
I don't know.
Could have been COVID. But they weren't even testing for COVID at that point. They said she had RSV. But yeah, I think the most important thing in terms of me, when I think of returning to normal, I think about like us being able to get together with, having our daughter play with her cousins and her friend, and like having play dates and having our friends over for dinner and getting together for holidays and birthdays. Like, that's the shit I care about.
Right.
I don't care about wearing a mask to the grocery store.
Well, along the same lines of the first thing, when it comes to office work and stuff, this is maybe in terms of the industry or in stock. Bold prediction: Zoom is going to try to fucking sell their company by summer. They're saying the writing's on the wall. No one's going to use us. Maybe when it comes to like maybe for office stuff, but that's it.
Yeah, right. No one's going to be having virtual Zoom like game nights.
Was it Jackbox? Is
Jackbox.
done.
Yeah. Well, they probably made enough money to just like throw in the towel and walk away at this point.
Zoom is going to go to Microsoft or Apple and say, which one do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Or
that's
Facebook.
what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that shit is going to slowly disintegrate.
Well,
It's never going to go away because Skype never went away.
And we used it even before the pandemic. I just think people are so much more comfortable with it that I think it will be normalized that when you want to talk to someone, especially in a professional setting, I feel like
That's
it's going to be
different.
more common to have a Zoom meeting than to have a conference call.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? So for professionally, I don't think you're going to see, again, when you have to go into some, and this could be for conferences, right? I don't think conferences are happening anymore.
Oh, I do.
No.
What, you mean post-pandemic?
Yes.
I do.
It's too expensive. When you can have the same result, you can put a slide on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, but people don't engage in the same way, especially if it's like that all the time.
They don't care. It's about
Who's
cost
they?
saving. People that are hosting these things. If you don't have to pay for people's flights, if you don't have to pay for people to stay in hotels, if you don't have to pay for people's meals and stuff, give a stipend for a meal or meals or gas, why would you?
I know what you're saying, but you're also coming from someone who doesn't do that type of stuff for your
No,
work.
I get it, but if I'm...
It's very valuable to have those interactions, those in person, especially when it's like, I mean, yeah, it is expensive, I think, and it's not really, it's kind of funny coming from me because that would be a much greener option, doing the virtual conferences. But I think there's a lot of value to that. There's a lot of value in socializing with and networking with people that you don't often see in person. And I know I attended a few virtual conferences this year and they were good. I think people did the best they could given the situation we were in, but it's just not the same.
All right. Speaking of the industry, one of the biggest hit industries have been the entertainment industry, specifically movies. Box office numbers are sort of skewed because people aren't going to the movies and whatnot. I think now, Warner Brothers, HBO, they've been doing this, just release it to HBO Max. So Wonder Woman 1984 was just released.
Right. Skip the theaters altogether.
Well, it did. It was in some theaters.
Oh, okay.
But it was also just, if you want to watch it on HBO Max, go ahead.
At the same time.
Same thing with Soul, Disney movie.
Right. That went straight to Disney
I
Plus.
don't know if it went to theaters, but it's right to Disney Plus. Mulan, right to Disney Plus. Trolls 2, I remember that was a thing. Order it online. I think that's going to be normal.
Yeah.
I don't think... So there was this meme floating around, and I think it's legit. People like us are going to get older, and we're going to talk to our grandchildren. We're going to say, no, I swear, there was a time where about 50 to 100 people were in this big room watching movies on this giant 100-foot TV.
I think that's going to come back. I don't think that's going anywhere.
Our grandchildren... Whatever you say, Grandpa. Yeah. Whatever. Sure, there were. No, I think it's going to be direct streaming. Streaming has become more prevalent now, and if you can get the movie right to you on a streaming service, I think the writing has been on the wall when it came to that.
I mean, yeah. I guess I feel like movie theaters wouldn't go anywhere.
People are putting 70-inch TVs in their house.
Yeah. Well, yeah, people who can afford that, it's
really not that
luxury,
expensive.
But
it's like $400. It's really not that much.
I mean, to some people, that's a lot of
No,
money.
I know. I'm saying you would imagine a 70-inch TV is like $800.
Well, yeah, TVs are getting cheaper and cheaper. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess if it's available, then theaters will probably slowly dwindle. I mean, a lot of them probably went out of business in 2020. But the ones that are left, yeah, I guess if it's not because it was an exclusive thing, that was the only reason to go to a movie, is because it was the only place you could see the new movie.
Right.
If that's not there anymore, then I can see it dwindling. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe who makes that decision? Like, is it the producers of the movie? Is it the people who own the theaters? Is it like they can decide whether to send it to whoever they sell it to. Yeah. Like
Warner Brothers or Disney, whatever.
Right. If they're going to put it on the services or if they're going to release it to the theaters. Yeah.
Disney has their own streaming service. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
Right. And if people are hesitant to go back to like ease into normal activities, then they're not going to do it right away. Yeah.
And why bother? Right. If you could. When a movie comes out, you have the anticipation to go to the movie theater because that's the only option.
Right.
If you don't have that option, maybe some people want the experience.
Right, it's a whole experience.
But I bet you the vast majority of people are like, I don't want to drag my kid into the movie theaters.
To go to the movies.
It's expensive, and what my kid starts crying or pees his pants, and then he loses the movie. At least when you're at home, you can just pause it, and you're just in your own element.
Yeah.
And
true.
I just think it's more convenient.
Yeah, I think that's you're right. I could see that happening. I think there are other forms of entertainment that cannot be replaced by that.
Like concerts.
Concerts, live music and theater, like actual live performance theater. I don't think there have been some virtual renditions of things like Hamilton was on Disney Plus.
Yeah, but that was pre-recorded.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that's not the same as seeing it on Broadway.
No. So those things aren't replicated. Right, what you're watching in the movie theater for a movie is the exact same thing you'll be streaming, right?
Right.
If you go to a concert or watch a concert on a streaming service, like a DVD of a concert, that's not necessarily the same.
I'm saying even a live stream. So you're right. Hamilton was pre-recorded and released like
everyone's seeing the same Hamilton.
Sure. Okay, so maybe more live music or live productions.
Yeah, you can't replicate that.
Yeah, it's not the same as being physically there.
No. But I do think they'll offer, along those lines, I do think you'll be able to buy a virtual ticket. Right? So if there's a concert in Providence here in Rhode Island.
So they might do both. They'll have in-person like normal and then a streaming.
But it will only be available. Obviously, there are ways to get around this if you're a viewer, but you have to prove with a credit card with a Rhode Island zip code or whatever that you're the only state that can watch this online. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
And obviously there are ways to pirate that. People will find ways to mirror it. But in terms, hey, you can come to this concert and pay $80 for the ticket, or you can buy the virtual one exclusive to people in Rhode Island only if it's the concerts.
I don't think
in
they're
Rhode
going to
Island.
care if people are going to give them money. Why
All
not
right,
just
whatever.
stream
Yeah,
it?
$50.
Yeah.
It's cheaper
Discounted.
to do
Right.
that at home than because you're not getting the full effect. You don't get the
Right.
sound. There are limitations.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that
Probably.
more. Maybe not a reliance on technology, but more.
It's an
stuff
option.
geared towards.
And I think you're right. From that perspective, it's an opportunity for the theater or for the actors or the musicians to make more money. And it's an opportunity for people who maybe normally couldn't afford to buy an actual theater ticket and drive and pay for the parking and do the whole
Right.
thing, pay for a babysitter or whatever, that they actually have the option of seeing this art,
Yeah.
you know.
The
for
only thing you
this
can't
kind
do
of
that
price.
is sports.
Yeah.
Because
Well, you can
everyone
watch
is
sports on
watching
TV
the same
already.
thing, but you want to be there. You
Yeah.
want to
But
experience
sports being on
that.
TV is not new to 2020.
Right. That's the only thing that's not replicable.
Right. Well,
is-
an audience, and I think that's true too of concerts and theater, like an audience. So for the movies, like you said, because it's a recorded thing, it's just something you're viewing. The audience is irrelevant. But
Right.
when it comes to theater, live music, sports, the audience is part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think that all these curbside touchless options are going to maintain,
Yeah.
and they should.
Yeah.
Like picking up clothes. Like if you order something from Kohl's, for instance, I know because we've done this. You just let them know you're there. They'll come and drop it off in your car. Same thing with groceries. I think all these things are going to maintain because it's, again, when it comes to, at least for grocery, the grocery store we shop at Stop and Shop. Shout out to Chris and Sarah, Stop and Shop.
With our carriage.
This option of ordering your groceries online and coming to pick them up has apparently been around before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think these sort of options that have cultivated as a result of the pandemic will persist.
Yeah. I mean, it's great for people people who aren't very mobile. Maybe you
Yeah.
have a cane or whatever, you have trouble in one way or another getting around. That's a good option for you. Or for people with young children to not have to, get all your kids out of the car seat and trek them through the grocery store for an hour. It's helpful to be able to just pull up and have your groceries loaded. And I mean, I think Target had already done it too, the whole drive up thing. And
I don't know.
Yeah, I do think it will stick around. I think there's going to be a shift now that so many people have discovered those services if they weren't using them before and they realize how convenient it is. Yeah, I mean, I just hope the employees are being compensated
Same thing with
appropriately.
Yeah,
It's more work for them.
DoorDash
Yep.
or Instacart
Yeah.
or Grubhub, all these things that people are using to get their food.
For
I think
safety reasons, they're going to continue to do it for convenience.
it's because it is more convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uber Eats, all these things,
Mhm.
although they were around before the pandemic, now people are, it's almost second nature now. There's this sort of an Amazon effect to it where you've been doing it for so long, that's your go-to,
Yeah.
right? So when we need new shit, we're just like, go to Amazon, just get it
Yeah.
on Amazon, right? And
Well, we go to smile.amazon.
yeah, whatever. We're not alone.
Try to make it a little bit better that we're not,
not
shopping
alone.
locally.
But I bet even when things go back to normal, just go to Instacart.
I know.
Just go to DoorDash,
But
go to whatever.
On the other hand, I feel like there's also been more of a focus being put on shopping local and supporting local businesses
Yeah.
and small businesses. So I think, yes, on the one hand, we've shopped more on Amazon than we ever have before because of the convenience. Because it's like if we realize we need something, it's better to get it on Amazon. You get it the next day or 2 days later without having to go into a store.
I got you.
But it's for a safety thing. But for local small businesses who we feel like we can shop there safely and it's not a time sensitive thing, I think people have been making much more of an effort to do that whenever they can. And I hope that continues.
Bold prediction. Trump's going to start his own news network.
Yeah. From jail.
But he's not going to go to jail. He's got, his lawyers are too good. The real lawyers, not Giuliani. The real ones that do the work.
The ones at Four Seasons Total Landscaping.
Yeah, no. I think he's going to start his own news network.
I don't know. I think he's going to face some criminal charges.
We'll see.
I don't know if it'll go anywhere. That's my hot take.
You didn't see the thing that happened today?
What now?
Georgia's governor, I think that's who it was. There's a recording either
of Trump asking him to make sure that there are votes.
imploring him.
Yeah.
I need 11,780 votes. You need to find them.
Yeah, find the votes to tilt the election
And
in his favor.
apparently that's
That's what I mean. Like, how can he not get, I mean, I know how he cannot. I get it. Like, I know that he's a very powerful person who's very manipulative, and I get it in my rational brain. But, like, I also just feel like, how can this actually keep happening? Like, how can someone get away with so many things?
It just will.
I don't know.
I also think he's going to get banned from Twitter.
Oh, yeah. I think so, too.
Entirely. Also, I do think climate change is going to be taken more seriously this year.
Based on what?
Based on the new administration coming in. And I know that doesn't sway people on the right, but I do think people on the right are going to realize that it's more financially beneficial for them to start caring about climate change. And there is a green movement, and it is sort of financially beneficial for big companies to have some sort of, oh, we're green, it's hip, it's in, and that's sort of disgusting in and of itself to just use that for a marketing ploy. But at the same time, I'd rather that than nothing at all.
Yeah.
Right? So I do think people are going to start waking up to that, for better or for worse, and we're going to be moving more toward, this year in particular, more towards a green, I don't want to say economy, but more towards green initiatives than previous years.
Yeah, I mean, I think once the pandemic slows down and isn't the only thing in the headlines, and once Trump is out of office and not constantly in the headlines, hopefully, yeah, I think there'll be more space for climate change to reemerge. I mean, I think we talked about this at the last episode.
As a focus, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean, as a focus. Because, like, we talked about how 2020, we entered into 2020 talking about the Australia fires, and like, then there were all the fires in California this year, and there's been so many hurricanes and these superstorm events. And I feel like normally we would have talked about those things for a lot longer, and maybe it would have sparked a little bit more momentum in the arena of climate change. But everything else going on, I think, kind of overtook it. There's just so many things happening. But I agree. I think maybe with the new administration, there's sort of a fresh start. There's tangible goals that have already been laid out, like within the first 100 days, that address that issue. And having to rebuild the economy is almost, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, it's almost like an opportunity to integrate the climate change piece and the green energy piece. As we're working towards rebuilding the economy, we have an opportunity to kind of insert these other policies and other regulations that will help move us in that direction. Yeah. So I can see that happening. I mean, I hope it does. We have a really long way to go, but not a lot of time. So,
do you have any that you'd like to give?
My only one is a personal one. This is a really bold prediction.
All right.
I'm going to get good at Instagram.
Okay.
For anyone who knows me, knows that is
okay,
very bold.
Boomer.
Yeah, exactly. I am such a boomer when it comes to technology and social media. And I think in general, I feel like we've kind of always come across pretty critical of social media and the negative things that it brings to the table.
For personal.
Yes.
Not for a business or something you're promoting.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm saying for us, you know, we've talked about really early on. I think one of our first episodes was about.
It was our first
episode was about how we don't put our pictures of our child on social media, and we approach it very carefully. And neither of us is super active on social media for personal things, but we recognize the value in using that as a tool for this project and to connect with other people. And
this is social media,
right?
podcasts.
Basically, yeah, exactly. So, I think we've had some really good interactions on social media. We've met some really great people that if we weren't on social media, we wouldn't have otherwise. And just the renewed focus on interacting in that way, and growing our network for the podcast. I think I'm going to try harder, especially, and also Facebook has been really kind of shitty to interact for the podcast. Like it's just been giving us a lot of technical issues. So I'm going to try to act cool and hip and get good at Instagram.
All right.
We'll see how that goes.
Mine is, each quarter, I've talked about this in the beginning, each quarter we have 1,000 downloads.
Mm-hmm.
So March, we should have 4,000 at that point.
Right.
I want by December to have 10.
Okay. Maybe if I get good at Instagram.
That's what I'm saying. It will coincide with that, right? So that will beat our quarterly average of 1,000.
Yeah.
Right? So at that
Mm-hmm.
point, yeah, shoot for 10 by the end of 2021. Let's shoot for 10. And lastly, Bills are going to win the Super Bowl.
Is that your bold prediction?
The Jays will make it to the World Series.
Wow.
And the Raptors will tank.
I
and
knew you were
have
going
a
to say
fire
that.
sale.
Yeah.
They will tank and have a fire sale.
Well, they had their year.
Yes.
Yeah.
I no longer do that podcast, but I think that's what they should do. But yeah, Blue Jays will make it to the World Series. The Bills will win the Super Bowl, and the Raptors will tank. And when the Bills do win a Super Bowl, we can put this on Instagram, I will put myself through a table.
You really want to do that. I know you do.
Well, I have to.
I know.
I got to get a pair of Zubas. And I have to get a Josh Allen jersey.
I know.
Got to find them. They're all sold out.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody listening to this has a spare size medium men's blue Josh Allen jersey, send it my way.
Yeah.
Just send it to me. Contact us. For free.
So Bills win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I win our Bachelor Fantasy League.
No,
Got
it's
it.
not. No,
Yep.
I'm going to win. I already won.
Yeah. So you're just like the Raptors. This year you're going to tank.
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to win.
Uh-huh.
It's over.
Yep. You're the Raptors. I'm the Bills.
You got any other bold predictions? Or are you good?
No, that's all I had.
All right. So if you have any bold 2021 predictions that you would like to share with us, we'd love to hear them. Or if you have any New Year's resolutions that you want to share, or anything regarding 2021, how you feel about it, what is your outlook, please share that with us. And again, if you've liked what you've heard, please subscribe to the show. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from. We are there. Looking right now at our top 10 most downloaded episodes for the year 2020. Do you want to know what our number one episode was? You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I don't know.
Climate change was our number one episode of 2020.
Well, maybe
Cancel culture was number 2.
I was going to say maybe we can revisit climate with the new administration policies.
Fat acceptance was number 3.
Wow.
90s was number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Rhode Island was number 5. Mandela, number 6, tied with Rhode Island, but there was just a little bit more interest in Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. Toxic masculinity, number 7. Here's to all the dads, number 8. Masket or casket, number 9. And number 10, so you want to have a kid, huh? Those are our top 10 downloads of 2020. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate the support. If you would like to dabble into those episodes, feel free to dig into the archives and just look around. Look, we have a lot of other topics that if you find them interesting or they tickle your fancy or whatever, feel free to listen to them. They're all timeless. They are not dependent on when they were released. So please give them a listen. And
you can check our Instagram highlights for some clips.
Cindy did update the Instagram, so it looks a little cleaner in terms of our, what are they called? Highlights.
Yeah, they're still under construction, but they're getting there.
I don't fucking know. Just a bunch of icons. Speaking of our social media, you can interact with us about the year 2021 by visiting our socials.
Yes, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/whileshe'snapping. On Instagram, which is going to be our preferable platform this year, at While She's Napping. On Twitter at She's Napping Pod.
Let's not even mention the Twitter.
Yeah, it's like not going anywhere. No. That was your thing. I've never been good at Twitter.
Sure.
And we do check our email, though. If you want to email us at whileshe'snapping@gmail.com.
Hit us up. Feel free to interact with us. Feel free to let us know what you think about 2021. What are we talking about next week? You want to do toxic individualism? Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's a new thing that I just started reading about. I think it's connected to all the talk we've done about COVID and masks and whatever. Maybe how people are going to approach 2021 and the beginning of the end of the pandemic. So yeah, sure.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
And then after that, so that would be the 11th. We released that episode, and then the 18th, you want to talk about the inauguration.
Yes, the week of the inauguration.
All right, so we got some scheduling to do.
And until then, we didn't mention our listeners' resolution. So until then, you can look forward to lowering your cholesterol.
Yes.
It's one of our listeners' resolutions. Getting your vaccine.
Yes.
ASAP.
Yep.
And one of our good friends wants to get his gains back from
Start
doing
lifting,
all
bro.
running this year and learn to sail.
Yep. Lift heavy. 5 sets. Each set 10 reps. Lift heavy. That's what I do.
Or just, sailing in the wind will really get those,
Yeah.
those arms working.
Don't hit other boats.
Yeah.
That's all
New
you
Year's
need to do.
Hot take,
All right.
2021.
Till next week. See ya.
Bye.